Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have. They've been translated, and they tell exciting stories about how gods intermingled with human beings and actually had a hand in the creation of human beings.
Deep within a university server, a powerful new AI model began its work. Its mission: to decode the impossible grammar of ancient Sumerian cuneiform, the first written language known to humankind. For days, it processed thousands of fragmented clay tablet images, identifying patterns no human mind had ever connected. Then, it produced a translation. What appeared wasn't a myth or a legend, but a record. A chilling account that suggests humanity was engineered, not born. It speaks of cosmic architects, genetic upgrades, and a deliberate split in our species from the very beginning. The first chapter of human history has been reopened, and it's nothing like we were told. The digital Rosetta Stone. Researchers unleashed powerful new machine learning models on the archives of cuneiform tablets. These AI systems were trained on every known inscription, from royal decrees to simple lists of grain. But they did more than just translate signs. They could identify missing symbols from broken tablets, predict what a word was supposed to be based on the dialect, and cross-reference texts from different empires like the Akkadian and Babylonian. To put it mildly, it was like finding a universal key to a language that had been half silent for millennia. Suddenly, the tablets began to speak again, and what they said was nothing like what the experts expected. For years, the stories they contained were dismissed as poetic creation myths, fanciful tales of gods making humans from clay. But once the AI restored and compared hundreds of texts at once, hidden patterns and shocking details jumped out. The AI flagged that these weren't just myths, they were records, detailed ones. They described labor systems, classifications of people, and strange procedures involving divine blood and purpose. What many overlooked is that these details appeared consistently across tablets from different cities and different centuries. The story was the same, repeated over and over. The first major shock was the revelation that the tablets don't describe one single origin for humanity. They speak of different creation events, using specific terms for each type of human created. They describe shaping beings in the likeness of the divine, but immediately separating them by their assigned function. According to these newly coherent texts, humanity was not created as one unified people. It was divided from the very first moment, engineered into different batches. At least one of these groups, described multiple times, was created with one defining trait: total, unquestioning obedience. The AI found recurring phrases that scholars had previously ignored. One translates to function-bearing life, another refers to those who do not multiply, and a third, chillingly, was identified as clay of lower glow. Experts had assumed this was just poetry, but the AI, analyzing the full context, suggested a terrifyingly literal meaning. These weren't just different classes of people, they were different models of people. Some researchers now believe these lines describe early humans who were biologically engineered without the ability to reproduce. If that's true, it means they were designed as a disposable workforce, never intended to last long enough to build a society or pass on their genes. As the AI pieced together more fragments, the horrifying message became clearer. Humanity was not the result of a single, grand creation. It was a messy process of trial and error. The texts describe different versions being shaped, tested, broken down, and rebuilt. Some versions were discarded completely, erased from history before they could leave a mark. The idea that our species was intentionally divided at its birth was once a fringe theory, but now, the tablets themselves seem to be saying it. And the AI didn't just translate the how, it was beginning to reveal the terrifying why. The evidence pointed to a purpose for humanity, but it was far from divine. Humanity 2.0 and the Adapa Project. The first human models weren't enough. That's the story the tablets tell next. They worked, they obeyed, but they were flawed. A major issue was that they couldn't reproduce. Each worker had to be individually crafted from clay, divine essence, and a binding agent some texts call blood. The process was slow and inefficient. Furthermore, this limitation was a built-in feature, a form of control, But eventually, that control began to cause problems. The tablets speak of the gods growing weary. The demand for labor was immense, especially for mining certain precious metals, and the original workforce was not sustainable. Too many were perishing, and not enough were being made to replace them. So, a decision was made to revise the model. The texts named the divine being responsible, Enki, the god of wisdom and technology. He proposed an upgrade. This new version of humanity would be smarter, more resilient, and, most importantly, capable of reproducing on its own. This would create a self-sustaining population, freeing the gods from the constant burden of creation. This new being was called Adapa. And the thing is, Adapa was different from the black-headed people, or the function-bearing life that came before him. He wasn't just a laborer. The texts describe him as the chief among men, a prototype for a new kind of human. He was given divine sight and a mind sharp enough to understand the will of the gods. He could speak, reason, and lead. He was the first manager. But even Adapa's advanced design came with carefully programmed limits. He was made to be intelligent, but not too intelligent. The story of Adapa is a perfect example. He was summoned to the heavens by the sky god, Anu, who offered him the food and water of eternal life. Immortality was on the table, but before Adapa left, his creator, Enki, gave him a strict warning: do not eat or drink anything they offer you. When the moment came, Adapa obeyed without question. He turned down immortality, and with that single act of obedience, humanity's fate was sealed. We would now live, multiply, and think for ourselves, but we would always be mortal. We would always pass away. What many overlooked for centuries is that this story reveals a critical detail. Enki gave Adapa knowledge, but deliberately withheld ultimate freedom. Whether this was a trick to keep humanity dependent or a precaution to prevent them from becoming too powerful, the result was the same. Adapa became the bridge between a simple biological tool and a true sentient species. His creation marked the beginning of something new, but also something dangerous: division. Because you see, not everyone received the Adapa upgrade. The AI's cross-referencing of different tablets shows that some human lineages were left in their original state, bound to labor, unable to think beyond their basic programming. Others, modeled after Adapa, were granted more autonomy. They could learn, adapt, and even rule. This split, once hidden in fragmented myths, becomes painfully obvious when seen through the AI complete translation. We can now see which groups were described as being given knowledge and which were only assigned tasks. The roots of inequality, it seems, go deeper than history. They may have been written into our very code, a deliberate decision not to give everyone the same chance from the start. This divine decision would soon spark a war, not between humans, but among the gods themselves. When the gods disagreed, not all the gods were happy about humanity's upgrade. The Sumerian texts are shockingly clear about this. A deep and bitter conflict erupted among the divine rulers, a disagreement over whether humanity should be allowed to evolve or be kept as simple, controllable tools. On one side was Enki, the creator of the self-replicating Adapa model. He saw potential in his creation. He believed humanity could become a species that could think, adapt, and even create on its own. In some of the newly translated texts, the AI found passages where he is referred to as the father of mankind, suggesting a protective, almost paternal role. His vision for humanity, while not granting total freedom, was one of growth. On the other side stood his brother, Enlil. To put it mildly, Enlil was the commander of the gods, a being who demanded strict order and absolute obedience. Where Enki saw potential, Enlil saw chaos waiting to erupt. He did not trust humans. He resented their newfound intelligence and ability to multiply, seeing it as a direct threat to the divine hierarchy. The AI analysis of Enlil's decrees shows a consistent theme of suppression and control. To Enlil, humans thinking for themselves was a bug, not a feature, and he was furious at Enki for releasing this update. So, the gods began to take sides. some aligned with Enki, secretly helping certain human groups, teaching them the secrets of agriculture, astronomy, and writing. Others remained fiercely loyal to Enlil, enforcing harsh restrictions and punishments on any humans who showed signs of independent thought. The result was a divine Cold War that played out on Earth. The AI translations reveal a shocking pattern of controlled development. In one region, tablets describe humans being taught to build cities and write laws. In another, just a few hundred miles away, the texts describe people as those without name, workers whose history was erased and who were forbidden from learning to read. This was scripted inequality, driven by a war in the heavens. The tension finally reached a breaking point. Enlil, enraged that humans had continued to multiply and grow in knowledge despite his efforts, decided to end the experiment once and for all. He resolved to wipe the slate clean with a cataclysmic event, the Great Flood. The thing is, the tablets make it clear this wasn't an act of divine purification. It was an act of extermination. It was about rebooting the entire system and getting rid of what he saw as a failed project. But once again, Enki intervened. He went against the divine council and found one man, a ruler named Ziusudra, who would later be known as Utnapishtim, or Noah. Enki warned him of the coming disaster and gave him instructions to build a great boat to save his family and the seed of life. Enki couldn't save everyone, but he saved just enough to preserve the lineage he had fought to protect. The Great Flood wasn't the end of the war. It only changed its shape, leading to a new, more insidious form of control. A warning. Written in the stars. The Sumerians weren't just record keepers. They were obsessive watchers of the sky. For over 700 years straight, priests in cities like Babylon recorded every celestial event they saw. Eclipses, comets, and the slow, subtle movements of the planets. They did this without telescopes, using only the naked eye and a form of mathematics so advanced it still baffles experts. They believed the heavens were a clock, a calendar that told a story of cycles, and they were waiting for something to return. The AI connecting astronomical records with religious texts found the name again and again, Nibiru. Mainstream science has never found a 12th planet, but in the Sumerian texts, Nibiru is not just a planet. It's described as the celestial home of the gods themselves, a world locked in a massive 3,600-year orbit that brings it through our solar system like a cosmic wrecking ball. The texts call it the Destroyer and the Planet of the Crossing. The AI analysis revealed a terrifying pattern. Major cataclysms on Earth described in the tablets, like the Great Flood, often coincided with the predicted return of Nibiru. It was the reset button. Each time it passed, the established order on Earth was wiped clean, and humanity was forced to begin again. But here's the most disturbing part. The translation suggests that this cycle of destruction was known, and the warnings were not meant for everyone. The texts describe a secret lineage of humans, those protected by Enki, who were tasked as watchers. Their job was to preserve knowledge through the cataclysms, passing it down through coded stories and secret traditions so that civilization could be rebuilt. Meanwhile, the rest of humanity, the lineages loyal to Enlil or those deemed unimportant, were left to forget. They were allowed to perish in the disasters or survive with no memory of their advanced past, forced to rediscover everything from farming to writing from scratch. This creates a cycle of great forgetting, ensuring humanity never becomes advanced enough to challenge the gods. This brings us to the core of the mystery people watching this are looking for. Could all of this be true? Does this explain the impossible leaps in human development, like the sudden appearance of agriculture or advanced architecture? If all this happened, are we missing a key detail? The thing is, the AI didn't invent this story. It simply revealed the patterns that were always there, hidden in the clay. It suggests that our history is not a straight line of progress. Instead, it might be a loop, a repeating cycle of creation, destruction, and forgetting. The tablets act as a final, desperate warning from our distant ancestors. They tell us that the celestial clock is still ticking. The tablets have been read. But what if this knowledge was uncovered now for a reason? Is another cycle about to end? Let us know your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.